Alright everyone, we're just getting here to volunteer again. Gotta sign in. New year, new piece of paper to sign in on. It's open for business. Again, waiting on people to show up. Let's take you outside here. See what it's looking like out here today. First donation of the day. It's gonna be all kids stuff. That's cool. Let's go over the things I brought to turn back in. Last week we saw a copy of old Billy Shakes' greatest works. Well, I had this one at home and it's really beat up, so I'm gonna go ahead and put that in the vintage books that need new covers. And what else am I bringing back? Snow Crash. Copy of The Hobbit because I have too many already, so I brought that back. And we brought Dracula back because I finished reading that one, and I guess I'll talk more about that later. I'm going to drop it first. And the floor's not too wet. Alright, so we got quite a few books dropped off. Cabin porn, everybody. Everybody. Cabin porn. That's going in the X-rated for sure. So anyways, yeah. I guess I might well do my little Dracula review since I just got done reading that. To be honest, it's well written, but I feel it drags on a little bit long. I like how it's all written in letters and epistolary, they call it, which, you know, is all of the narration takes place through letters and voice recordings, phonograph. Anyway, it just, I don't know. I feel like, I don't know, like all the beginning stuff is good. All this stuff with Harker at the castle I like. That's all really good, sets the mood. But then they go back to England and I feel like the story really falls apart for me. Never really get what's Drax's motivations, and that's because, you know, well, you don't really ever get to read any of his diary entries, right? You're only seeing the action through the point of view of the people that he's terrorizing, but yeah, I don't know, I just, having just read Frankenstein last year as well, 2024, I gotta say, I feel like as far as the classic monster literature goes, I feel like Frankenstein is scarier. I feel like the monster is more terrifying, like, than Dracula. I think people should read it, but you know, you have to tip your hat off for Bram for, I mean, I guess writing something that has influenced so much of pop culture through the years. But I gotta tell you, I don't find the book that scary. I think the scariest version of Dracula I've seen yet is probably the '92 Francis Ford Coppola movie. I thought it had some problems. I thought it was pretty scary. Maybe it's just because I was a kid when I watched it, and now I'm an adult, and I don't know. Dracula doesn't seem to frighten me as bad. You know, something like Frankenstein's monster I found more believable, maybe. Like it could, even though it's very outlandish, it seemed like it's more believable. And the monster is not, you know, Frankenstein's monster isn't restrained by all these kind of arbitrary folklore rules and myths that Dracula has to operate by. Like, Dracula has seriously half of the day where he can't do shit because he's basically incapacitated. And I want to be clear that I think the book Frankenstein is scarier than the movie Frankenstein, because I don't I don't really get how you can be afraid of, like, yeah, in the movie Frankenstein's monster is big, giant, can crush you, but he moves at about a half mile an hour. Anybody with legs can get away from him. So anyway, yeah, the book Frankenstein is like abnormally fast and abnormally strong and abnormally intelligent, and like that all comes together into a pretty frightening combination. I should probably sort more books here. Anyway, I know I shouldn't be I'm not trying to hate too much, but I guess this kind of leads me into my thoughts about the new Nosferatu movie. I was pretty excited to see it. I'm a big Robert Eggers fan. I didn't like it. I was kind of bored with it, and I'm a guy who likes slow burn movies. 2001: Space Odyssey is one of my favorite films. I like The Lighthouse and The Northman are two of my favorite films. It was directed by Robert Eggers, and I don't know, I felt like this one, he just leaned way too hard on shock and gross out. Like, there's plenty of gross things in the movie, but I didn't really feel the gothic horror. Like the first act, I will say, the first act of the movie, when Thomas, he's walking up, getting in that carriage, and you see the castle, and then he's walking through that forest. All of that is beautiful. I was even okay with the Count's voice, which apparently, some people are really not liking how the Count looks and sounds, but I was okay with it at the start. And then just kind of like with the original Dracula story, once they leave the castle, I kind of am just like, what? I'm not very scared anymore. In the end, yeah, Dracula is constantly built, or even Orlok, constantly built up as this great threat. I don't know, it just like 3-4 guys who possess the correct folklore myths, they're able to just go in and take them out. Like, I don't know, nobody back in Transylvania could have gotten that done years before. Just kind of falls flat for me a little bit. Alright. Okay, so we got about 10 minutes left. Whew, this is why I like doing this. I just had a good, probably 30-minute discussion with a gentleman who just dropped these books off about reading and amazing books that we've read. That's great. We were talking about how more people need to read War and Peace, which I agree with. He was telling me that you can't get anyone to read it, just like me. People want to say that's too long, War and Peace, that's too long, but then they'll read 1,300-page book by Brandon Sanderson without batting an eye. So I think, obviously it's not a length. Length isn't really the issue. It's quite clearly style. And I feel like the modern day reader doesn't like when things are written in a different style than what they're used to. I think fantasy readers are pretty guilty of this. And it's like, I don't know what I can do to help people kind of branch out more, but that's what we should be doing as readers. You shouldn't be so honed in on one genre or one author or even just books, because writing comes in an incredible variety of forms. So anyways, I'm just getting done volunteering at the library. Just thought I'd take a little walk out here in this park because we just got a ton of snow and it's quite beautiful out here. So I'm going to wrap up my thoughts about Nosferatu and why I was kind of let down by it. I felt like there was too many scenes kind of where the same thing happens, just like let's watch this girl have a seizure, and that's where the gothic horror comes from. I don't know, it just didn't really do it for me. I didn't mind the way the Count looked. I know a lot of people don't really like the the mustache and the voice, but I was okay with it, mostly because I understood the period accurate mustache and all that. Couldn't really see his fangs as a result, but what are you gonna do? Maybe it just wasn't for me, and that's okay. Not everything is gonna be for me. The fact that we got the Northman, which I know a lot of people didn't like, but I thought the Northman was amazing, so the fact that we got that, that one was for me. Wow, this is crazy. Anyways, let's go home and we will add to the collection what we took away from the book donations this week. All right, we'll see you there. All right, and here we are back in the office, the library, the study, the wizard's library. We got our bag here. We got our bag that we take to the library, and this week I only brought one book back with me that I wanted to give a try. It's a picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. Maybe I gotta hold that up a little bit closer. I don't know. Previous owners got a lot of these little bookmarkies on the. You probably can't see it because they're tiny as heck, but never read that one. I know generally what the story's about. It sounds pretty intriguing. Thought I'd give that a go. I think I should give some more thoughts about the Nosferatu movie. Like I said, I felt like it had a very strong first act. I was really into all the castle stuff. The Count kind of being hidden in the shadows, and his voice in the theater was pretty good. I did enjoy that. It was like real bassy and foreboding, and I was feeling the doom and terror. Man, once you leave there, it becomes just, the story just really becomes more focused on the wife of that guy. Ellen is the character's name, which is fine. I'd be fine with that, but it's just, I feel like her scenes are fairly one note. You kind of get the same thing over and over. She starts having possession, convulsion type things going on. They're very sexually charged. And then there's usually like a jump scare kind of thing. And I felt like several of these kind of not good jump scare type moments in the film. A lot of the second and third acts really hinges on Ellen and Lily Depp, or whatever her name is, Johnny Depp's daughter, Lily Rose Depp, I believe. A lot of the movie really, is carried on her performance, and I didn't hate it. I'm not going to say I didn't like her performance, but like I said, it became rather one note. And there's, some of those possession scenes, like, you either are going to like her acting or you're going to think it's kind of over the top and silly. I kind of thought that some of them were good and a little bit, but some of them, it was really like they kind of drug on too long, I feel, is the problem for me. And they crossed over into the kind of campy realm. I don't know. It just, the film ended up coming off more almost like a possession film, like I was watching The Exorcist or something like that. And it's just, I don't know. That was a choice, I guess. And then the ending, somehow the whole film, well, not the whole film, a good chunk of the second half of the film felt really slow and ponderous, but then somehow they managed to make the ending feel kind of rushed and almost anticlimactic. And I've seen the original. I was aware of how it's kind of like the Ellen's sacrifice which defeats Orlok, but in the original it's, I don't know, I feel like it's maybe a little more tastefully done, a little more classy. You just see Orlok sucking blood out of Ellen's throat area. They're both, basically fully clothed, and the sun comes up and Orlok disappears. And you can say that the effects of the 1922 version are obviously inferior, right? Can border on a little comical sometimes, but I just felt like it was a disappointing ending. in that way, because it was a little more like, it felt like the movie just needed things to make things more graphic and X-rated almost, in order to get like that reaction out of the viewer. And personally, I kind of like the more subtle approach, you know. I've seen people online kind of flaming other people who have this kind of opinion, who feel like maybe the movie was a little overly sexualized. You know, people say, well, it's a vampire movie. Are you surprised that it was always sexual story? It's always been this way. And I would argue that I feel like the previous version, the silent 1922 version, and then also Bram Stoker's Dracula even, I felt like it's maybe like there's sex in those movies too, but it's just done a little bit more tastefully. Some things are maybe a little bit more implied, instead of being so gratuitous, graphic. I don't know what the word. Anyway, I don't want to go on too long about why I didn't like the movie, because I feel like, you know, people should still check it out, and I can maybe see why some people do like it, but for me, I don't know. Like, again, like I said, maybe I'm just not afraid of the Dracula story. Maybe it's too familiar for me anymore, or I don't know what to say other than I think Frankenstein's better as far as the old school gothic horror novel goes with a monster. Okay, so yeah, I guess that's gonna be it for me for this video. I'll check you next time.